Felixstowe at the local hearings of the second local plan for Felixstowe. So you've been busy, you've attended quite a number of the meetings. How do you think it's gone so far?
I think as well as we could have expected, really. Of course, we won't know for a few weeks yet until we hear back from the planning inspector. We hope he's taken on board some of the messages that we've given about and some of the changes that we've requested in the local plan. And if he has, then we hope those changes will be of benefit to the residents of Felixstowe.
Okay, so if we take into account the first local plan that we're currently working with, and then we add to it the proposed second local plan, my arithmetic implies that would be something like adding at least 3,600 new dwellings to the Felixstowe community, the peninsula, particularly Walton, over the next 20-25 years. Is that right?
That's right, yes. The previous local plan had 1,600 new houses in, and the new local plan adds another 2,000 houses to that original plan. So yes, quite rightly, there's now something like 3,600 dwellings, plus a huge new container park at Innocence Farm, of course, to be taken into account as well.
Right, so we'd have quite a major change then, wouldn't we? In the community, the availability that we currently have for recreational and green space in and around our existing communities.
I think we will. I think it's big enough. You know, it's growing the size of the town by about a third in a fairly short space of time, and I think it will change the character of Felixstowe. Again, especially with the logistics park at Innocence Farm. I think, you know, currently people coming to the town of Felixstowe will find a pretty Edwardian seaside resort, well, at least, you know, in places, and a pleasant place to live and a pleasant place to visit. I think if everything that's in this new local plan comes to fruition, it'll feel like a much more urbanised environment. There'll be a lot more traffic, a lot more pollution, and certainly that logistics park on the way into town for everybody, visitors and residents alike, will make the place feel like an industrial zone. It really will change the character of the town, which I think is one of the things that worries us most greatly about this new plan.
Okay, well, I live in the old Roman settlement part of Felixstowe. I live in Walton, a place that's being forgotten about quite a lot, and it's going to be majorly impacted by this, because though it might be a third expansion for Felixstowe, for Walton you're virtually doubling it in size, and you've actually got a major road separating the two communities, so there is going to be very little connection from what I can see for the new development north of Candlett Road and Walton itself.
Yes, you've already got a new development going on in Walton, haven't you? And then in the plan there's another housing estate on the north side of the High Road in Walton, and then there's another 2,000 houses on the north side of Candlett Road in the new so-called garden neighbourhood. I think a no gardens neighbourhood is probably going to be a more accurate term for it, to be honest.
True. Do you have a definition for what a garden neighbourhood is? I know that we had Stevenage and Peterborough, various other cities in the United Kingdom that were built to a specific specification for a garden city, but at what point did a garden neighbourhood have any legal or specification status?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I've been asking the councillors and the planning officials that same question myself, and those original garden communities that sprang up in the 20th century, part of the specification, ironically, was that they would all have good-sized gardens, the houses, which is why they were called, garden communities. But in fact, there is no definition of a garden neighbourhood. There is no such thing, and it just seems to be a bit of a catch-all term at the moment that tries to put a positive spin on what is really just a large and potentially, well, probably high-density housing estate, and if current trends are continued, there will be not much in the way of gardens, I think, really.
So really on that basis, the two words garden, there won't be any, and neighbourhood, it won't be much, in that it's not connected to the existing community particularly well. They're both misnamed, perhaps they should rename the whole project. So you're now awaiting, we've got another 3 weeks or so to go, haven't we, of various hearings on various things, habitat and climate warming, etc., etc. You're awaiting an interim or recommendations from the inspector to the council. They may or may not comply. Then you'll get at some point a decision and an acceptance that local plan 2 is acceptable or supported by the government. What then will the Felixstowe group be looking to do to influence at least the least damaging aspects of whatever may be coming down the track at us?
Well, you know, we ask for some fairly radical changes to the local plan. To be honest, I don't think, well, I'm pretty confident we're not going to get all the changes that we asked for. We're hopeful that we'll get some of them. We'll have to wait and see whether the planning inspector needs the council to do another public consultation. We hope so, because it gives us another opportunity again to comment and challenge the plan. But yeah, no doubt by the end of this calendar year, that new local plan in one shape or another will be in force. And there's not much we can do about that then for another 5 years until the next round of local plans.
Yes, because we do have a review of the plan coming.
Every 5 years.
Yeah, so we could question whether the evidence currently being used for this has been borne out in reality.
We can, but then, you know, in that interim period, there's lots going on for us. So we've got this a new housing estate being planned at north of Conway Close.
What, Ferry Road?
It's on the junction of Ferry Road and Golfer Road.
Ah, yes, the opposite side to the development has already taken
opposite
place.
side to Laureate Fields. Yeah, so that's in the existing 2016 local plan as allocation for housing, and we are expecting an actual planning application for that around Christmas time. So we'll be looking at that very hard and trying to help the council make the right decisions about that as best as we can.
Okay.
And then after that, in the local plan, assuming it's approved, currently they talk about a master plan for the so-called garden neighbourhood, and we will be expecting at some point within the next year or two a public consultation on that master plan for the garden neighbourhood, and we'll be very much involved with that. But we've also got an ongoing process of trying to work with Felixstowe Town Council. We feel at the moment that too many councillors on Felixstowe Town Council are wearing too many hats. You know, in particular, they are not only town councillors, they are district councillors and county councillors.
There must be conflicts between them.
It does generate conflicts of interest, and you know, what we don't see is our town councillors really representing the interests of Felixstowe residents in the wider in these wider fields. When they get to the district level, the district council, we understand. I mean, we accept that they're under pressure from the government. They're also heavily lobbied by local big businesses to do things in certain ways which aren't necessarily in the interests of local residents. We'd really like to see Felixstowe Town Council taking our view more, because at the moment we feel local residents just don't have a voice in these planning processes.
Well, I don't know whether the viewer is aware, but there are only two communities that are being used as garden neighbourhoods, and that is Saxmundham and Felixstowe. And it was noticeable at the inquiry, because I sat through both, that there were town councillors coming from Saxmundham questioning the way that this whole structure was being put together, and very much representing their community. There was a sad lack of that from Felixstowe at these hearings. Perhaps they might be going later. They have until September the 20th to get their butt round there, but the only evidence we had was of the guy who came and spoke about a spine road through the whole development, and really wasn't addressing the concerns of the community but the concerns of the developer.
Stuart Bird, yes, and and not just Saxmundham, but in fact, I think most of the other parish councillors as well there were challenging the plan to try to improve it for their own local communities. Whereas generally speaking, we've seen Felixstowe Town Council time and time again, when they've had opportunities to respond, to contribute, to make submissions about this plan, they've basically rubber stamped it and said, yeah, we kind of support all of this. They have requested one or two small changes, but they have been very small in the grand scheme of things. And I'll say it one more time, they could have done much better from the point of view of existing and future local residents. Yeah.
Well, Bob, thank you very much indeed. That's very interesting. So, the request Walton Community TV would make, just keep us posted. And,
yeah, very, very happy to do so. Yeah.
Thank you very much for sparing us the time.
Okay.
And, let's hope we might have something a bit better, a bit happier to report on when the inspectors sat in, consumed all of the evidence that he's received.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah.